a person to communicate with what he called the ordinary flow of persons in society. So this small collection of researchers have been meeting for the last several months and talking about their philosophy that students who have disabilities, and in this case we aren't just focusing on students but also adults, should have educational opportunities to the greatest extent possible, and that technology can provide a more enabling environment. One of our members who isn't here today continually works with secondary school students as a resource teacher, and she continues to remind us that we need to make sure that the technology isn't used to further isolate students with disabilities, but to bring them into the flow with society. So we have 3 research projects that are going to be presented today. Heather Ellis, who couldn't be here, was focusing on policy research. Heather White is going to talk about text-to-speech reading in the junior grades. And Jessica Clarkson is going to talk about an augmented reality app for adults with autism. And all of them focus around this concept of the least restrictive environment. Heather Ellis focused her research on policy gaps, and Heather has graduated from our Masters of Education program at UOIT. I'm not going to read each of the points that are here, but Heather, as part of her research, analyzed all of the Ministry of Education curriculum documents to locate the connections with technology that are in the documents. And I think you may be surprised by the findings in her research, is that she didn't find a lot of connections to technology in the curriculum. She found a connection for ICT as a tool in the kindergarten curriculum. She found a connection with multiple literacies in the arts curriculum. She found that the integration of ICT into, and let's substitute the name of a program, appeared as a sentence in multiple curriculum policy documents, but just this same statement without an elaboration in the other policies. And in the arts document in 2009, she again found this reference to technology as a range of tools that can support students' learning. So one of the findings of her research is that there are policy gaps in the Ministry of Education curriculum encouraging teachers and students to be exploring uses of technology. Heather Ellis's research was in special education. So she also looked at the ministry policy for individual education plans, and she found that in the IEP 2000 document, technology was missing, was absent. And she found in a more recent guideline, the IEP guide for 2004, that technology is being discussed, but only as assistive technology, and not with connecting students who have special needs to mainstream communications. I'll discuss very briefly Heather's research, and I know she would love it if you contacted her to talk a little bit more about her research. The regions of the province were asked to create resource documents around assessing achievement in alternative areas with students with special needs. So this was done so that they would enhance the assessment and evaluation of students with exceptionalities. So Heather's research was to go to 9 different school boards who participated in this project, and she interviewed all of the people who would speak with her that participated in the building of this ministry document. And what she found with her research is that there were significant gaps in the authors or the contributors to the policies, ideas around the use of everyday technology. Many of the participants in her study said that they thought technology would be integrated with other categories, such as safety, and then some people thought it was the board's responsibility to embed technology, and then some thought that technology use would be strictly linked to special education allotment funding. So Heather is a big part of this research project because she's identified these policy gaps around the use of technology for everyday communications for students with disabilities. And I will turn it over now to Heather White.
Thank you, Lorraine. Okay. There are many issues for students who have difficulty reading, who are divided from and separated from the experiences that their peers have in the classroom. There are 2 reasons for that. One is that they struggle to decode, and therefore they can't access the actual print. But the other issue is that they miss the vocabulary, the content, the ideas that are appropriate for their grade level. So Eddie Burns' research in 2007 was exploring this idea that we need to do something besides address the reading loss. We need to do something to open the gate, open the door, so the students can access the learning experience fully with their peers. So for some students, using a computer, if it worked well, would be like using a pencil for other students. So he felt that assistive technology should be considered as part of IEP planning, and it should be a very careful and planful step to take. What we wanted to know was myself and the teachers who agreed to be my classroom partners in this research, what would happen if we had a 6-week program which was addressing reading, was addressing all kinds of literacy and technology skills, but made sure that the students who were in the program had intensive access and instruction in the use of a computer-based text-to-speech, that's TTS, reader in that 6-week program. The students were junior age, grade 4 and 5, and they all had reading disabilities, although they didn't necessarily have a diagnosis yet. For some of them it was in progress, assessment was in progress. They certainly had significant reading difficulties. Now, if you don't have experience with text-to-voice or text-to-speech reader, what it does, Kurzweil is the example that we used. Premier is another one. There are a number available. Kurzweil is the most expensive and the most, at this point in time, customizable to an individual student's experience and progress and vocabulary and so on. The computer reads to the student. They use earphones to hear it so that you don't have a lot of noise in the classroom and so that it's a clean signal. The screen shows the same print, so they are seeing it visually and auditorily at the same time. The student can choose the speed of the speech presentation, and there are techniques like it highlights the sentences being presented. It can be set so that they can click when they're ready to go to the next sentence, or it can be continuous. And the voice has improved quite a bit so that it's, you know, sort of expressive. It's a little better than Hal on, you know, that old movie that I can't think of the name, something 2000. It's much better than Hal, but it still takes some getting used to. And so some of the research had quite mixed results when we were looking into that. And that was because some students found the voices hard to hear and hard to interpret. Some of them liked it. This was preliminary, previous researchers, but it didn't affect their comprehension. Some of them took many, many months in some of the studies to actually master this technology. So if you could get mastery of the technology to the point where a student could use it almost automatically with some ease so that it could be a regular classroom tool, that would be a big achievement. If you also could establish an improvement in comprehension beyond what they would get if they were just reading the text from a little book, that would also be an achievement. We didn't know if that would happen or not. It was the first time we were doing it. It was just a completely open question. So the program is a specialized 6-week withdrawal program. 5 of the 6 students were considered in the study. 1 of them was absent with an extended illness and had to be withdrawn. So they received remediation in reading, as the program had done for years, but also in the text-to-speech technology and other technologies. The technology was woven throughout the day's activities. This was a really important factor. And so the teachers tried to use the technology as if it was just another tool in the classroom. You get out your pencil or you get out your laptop. And the results were, first of all, a surprising and dramatic improvement in student motivation to read. Students were accessing the same popular books their peers were reading at their home schools. And they were so excited to be emailing them about the books they were reading. They'd always had to have, you know, the easy books, and now they could read the same books as everyone else. We also realized that the teachers were important contributors to success. And by the way, the data was gathered through criterion testing, through the DRS test for fluency and comprehension, and extensive interviews from the teachers who took extensive notes. What we were able to show was that this 6-week program could offer an opportunity for students to master the technology very well, and it could have a significant improvement in their actual reading level, both fluency and comprehension. So here I have the graph for you that shows their fluency. Now, fluency, when you're looking at a book, is the speed, the words per minute the student can read without any other help. When you're using Kurzweil in this situation or another TTS system, it's the speed the student chooses that is really their comfortable listening speed for comprehension. 125 was the speed at week 6. Some of them had started slower, but by week 6, 125 was a comfortable word per minute speed for all of them, and you or I or anyone else would find that a comfortable listening speed. So the difference here is the amount of information the students can access is just enormously increased in the amount of time. If you look at student M, she could only read 23 words in a minute without the computer. With the computer, 125 words a minute. It was a dramatic difference for her. All of the students were very notably improved there. Comprehension was a little bit more complex picture. Definitely 4 of the 5 students were measured on this test as improving their comprehension. It was a little booklet. There were 2 booklets that were the same level, but they were different actual stories, and so it was comparable. And the booklets had pictures in them that would help the students be able to read the material. And so when they used the Kurzweil, unless there's extensive pre-editing and adjustment, doesn't flash up those pictures. It skips over them. It can't read them because they're not words. Because the teachers scan that material in, and the computer program turns it into readable print. That's part of the aspect of the software. So the students weren't getting any of the pictures in this assessment situation. However, they still had improved comprehension except for student A. Student A was very visual. His teacher said that when he was able to use the pictures, they had some materials where they had been to do the appropriate editing, and so the student did get the pictures. They felt that the fact classroom observations showed that he as well had a significant improvement in his comprehension, that the Kurzweil was absolutely critical for him. All of these students were also being considered for recommendation for a prescription, and the teachers felt that their observations supported that all of these students would benefit from such a prescription on an ongoing basis in their home schools when they went back. So overall it was very successful, but the most dramatic difference for the parents and the teachers when they came to visit was that these were reluctant readers, extremely reluctant readers, and now they were so happy to be reading with their friends, similar books they could talk about. They also were able, by the way, to use to access online material so that they could prepare, download, and so on. They could use it to read, but also to write and to prepare shows and so on. So there were a number of challenges, and some recommendations arose from those. The time required to scan and edit the materials for pictures and text was substantial. And as well, we had heard about a government source. It's a resource center operated out of the School for the Blind in Belleville. We had heard that they could do for us, but to use them as a source, you had to send the book. You would not get it back. They would tear it apart to feed the pages in. And then when it came back, it wasn't edited. So when Kurzweil was reading it, it was reading the page numbers at the bottom of every page. It was reading the top of every page. It was quite a challenge that way. So the teachers were disappointed in that and decided they were better off doing it with themselves. Recommendations for school board. Rapid response support services are critical. If a student doesn't have their computer for 2, 3, 4 weeks until their time comes up on this long list, it doesn't work. Our program was able to get rapid response. That still meant the teachers had to advocate, but they got one within a day or two. Libraries of scanned books that are centrally available would be incredibly helpful to teachers. Teachers are busy people, their time is stretched. And assistive technology training for all teachers. Often there's specialists such as a special education resource teacher who's the assistive technology expert in the school. But we found in follow-up visits to the schools that the students who were continuing to do well had teachers who were more comfortable with technology. Our teachers tried to help with that by providing some continuing coaching in the school. One notable piece of research I'd like to share with you is the research that King and Evmanova did in 2007, which showed that technology is essential for all students. ICT skills are the way of the future, and all our students need to be able to access them. So what we felt was that we needed to have software which could bridge that print to online environment. And Kurzweil and there's another one called Premier can do that. And so if you're evaluating that for your school, consider that. So the teacher does make the difference. And students in a classroom where assistive technology is taken for granted and part of the wallpaper or the routine of the class, really use their technology. And classes where it's really the student's responsibility to think about their technology, unless they're a high school level student, the kids just don't get it out. They revert quite quickly to pencil and wanting to be like the others. So we have some suggestions for you. If you pre-scan and edit your materials when it's convenient for you, you won't struggle with that kind of thing where there's a student at your elbow and it winds up taking way too long and wasting a lot of your instructional time and the student's learning time. It's great to be able to email assignments to students. There is no scanning needed. If you have the assignment in digital form, you can just email it to them. There are usually after-school training workshops available. It's not ideal. The ideal is to attend the training with your student because you're a busy person, and so you need to advocate for coverage, and school boards really should be providing this whenever they can. Maybe your principal can help you so you can sit and learn with your student and you become allies in using that technology. And it's so important to practice using the technology because it is a little different. It's not that it's so hard, but you want to become comfortable and automatic with it, not have to think it out each time. And that's what you want for the student. And you can coach them better and support them if you're comfortable. That might mean that there might be a weekend where you need to keep the laptop instead of going home with the student. Believe me, if you talk to parents about the way you want to support their student, they'll be happy to have you keep the laptop. And you might want it to assess the student work as well. All right, so here we go. Classroom management. You know, you quickly become skilled in setting up classroom routines for everything else. Like anything else, a student who has AT, usually they can set it up themselves. But if it should be part of their routine. You come in, you turn on the light, you hang up your coat, and you take out your laptop, just as another student takes out their pencil or pen and their book. If you do that, it's there all the time. If in the middle of the lesson you say, now take out your notebooks, take out your pencils and begin, or here's your worksheet, and that student then has to go and get their laptop and set it up, they're so embarrassed because they're being different from everyone else that that's a time when they may start to avoid or get very slow at getting it out. If it's already out when there's a buzz in the classroom, it's a much more comfortable thing. If you can accept assignments submitted digitally, they could be emailed to you, or if it requires specialized assistive software, then maybe you can keep it, or perhaps they can give it to you on a memory stick if you want it printed, and you can arrange to print it for them. Do actively encourage routine use of the technology through the day. Build it in so that it's reading, writing, and research all the time. And if ICT skills are valued for all students, that sets an environment that really optimizes for this student. I also have found in classrooms where there are not many computers available that if a prescribed computer is sometimes used for group work where students are partnering with other students using the computer, or they're the scribe for the group, or they're researching online using that student's computer and he's there, then the social status can be raised quite a bit. They become a real asset, a help to others in the classroom, instead of that kid who's struggling. Anything we can do to raise the status of the kids is really helpful. But as always, the teachers make the difference, and assistive technology is not enough. If you're providing comprehension focusing questions, this student needs them just as much. They need your pre-talk to build comprehension. They need your post-talk to help summarize and master and make connections. All of those things. As well, the librarian can become your best friend. If you can organize with the librarian to get volunteers like grade 8s and parents to scan and edit books in the library that are popular as a starting point so that they can easily be picked up on a memory stick or emailed to a student, then depending on the network capacity and so on, then wow, the workload is hugely reduced and everyone is very happy. Personally, I think school boards should be providing these central repositories as well, but it's going to take advocates to get that going. And finally, especially in elementary school, if you have 6 computers in the classroom instead of 30 computers in the lab that you get to twice a week, it's infinitely better for your group work, and it sets that computer up as part of the everyday experience. And sometimes the teachers are asked their opinion of that. So that would be my recommendation. In a high school setting, if there's a mini lab down the hall with 6 computers that the students can share within the department, that can affect the same thing. So I will say that when many students are using laptops in an ICT positive environment, nobody notices those who are using assistive technology, and it becomes a far more inclusive and comfortable environment. Over to you, Jessica.
Thanks very much, Heather.
Okie doke. So just moving over to the slide. So I'm Jessica. I'm going to be talking about my augmented reality app for autism. So I am still in the process of doing my research, so it's not a completed research project, but I'm working on it. Slow and steady, sure and steady, we're getting there. But to kind of introduce where I'm coming from, I'm sure a lot of you guys are like me and you want to change the world and save everyone and make this huge global impact, and everything's going to be sunshines and rainbows at the end of the day. That's kind of where I came into my research project and was told nicely by my supervisor to maybe tone it down a little bit, narrow the scope a lot, to maybe change a small part of the world. And that's kind of what I was wanting to look at and get into with this project. So what I had done was looked at different tools and technologies available. I'm working with the EI Lab, so you guys have heard earlier that we're looking to use devices to help individuals with disabilities. And one of the disabilities that we had been looking at or starting to look at was autism. And one of the major kind of pow moments for me in this research process was the Toronto Star had done a series of articles about autism called Autism Speaks. And they had looked at families and individuals with autism to look at their daily struggles. And one of the major kind of eye-opening quotes that I kind of took from that was the fact that children with autism grow up to be adults with autism. And that was very potent for me. It was very kind of, okay, didn't really think about it that way, where we have tons of supports in place for children with autism, but as these individuals grow, they're kind of left with nothing. So that was where I wanted to help step in and change that little small bit of the world through trying to help implement a tool that they could use. So what I wanted to look at and what my research question kind of came into play was looking at whether or not an augmented reality app using situated learning and communities of practice will promote development of autonomy or intrinsic learning, as I'm going to be defining that in adults with autism spectrum disorder. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but what my main focus today that I'm going to talk about is the communities of practice as well as autonomy, because those are the pieces that really tie into what Heather and Heather's research and Lorraine was describing with the context of helping to remove those barriers. So if you're not 100% familiar with autism, individuals with autism can have social impairments. They can have inabilities or difficulties with understanding other individuals or understanding themselves. So communication and really being a part or an integral part of the community can sometimes be limited. So that's where this research should, positivity, change that or have some sort of benefit. So what we have done is I've been working with a team of developers who have been, again, slowly but surely getting this app finished, where we wanted to develop a transportation app. So I've been working on trying to figure out how we can use a transportation app to really add a tool that these individuals wouldn't have previously. So this transportation app that we've been developing has been, what it does is you can put in a start address and a finish address, and it will tell you not only how to get there, the transit schedule. It uses TTC, so it uses the Toronto Transit schedule to tell them streetcars, buses, will tell them the start location, the end location, turn-by-turn navigations, and also what I was really excited about was it'll tell them when their stop is coming up. So it will allow them to prepare because like I get nervous all of the time when I ride transit because I'm afraid I'm going to miss my stop, or I'm afraid that I'm not going to be ready, or I'm going to press it too early or too late. So it gives them that warning, which when I talk to individuals with autism, that was one of their concerns, was that they have anxiety when they ride the transit. So this is going to potentially help reduce anxiety. But what the main component is that it's using authentic reality, authentic learning, and augmented reality to help support this situativity, or this situated learning environment where they're learning by doing. It's not that we're keeping them in a classroom and saying, okay, this is how you read a map. We're giving them an app and saying, this is how you read the map while you are actually going to ride the bus or try to get from point A to point B. So the opportunities available for them are going to be more authentic than other potential solutions. Sorry, that was bugging me, kept rising up and down. Okay, so the theoretical framework that I have been working on is looking at the integration of communities of practice, augmented reality, and situated learning to establish an authentic learning environment, which will then hopefully allow individuals to have self-determination, or have these variables that relate to competence, relatedness, and autonomy. So for this specific piece, I'm really only going to focus on communities as well as autonomy. But looking at this whole community practice, looking at Levy and Wagner's work, had established that individuals are going to be actively participating in their community to learn and experience growth. And what happens with some individuals with autism is that community piece is limited. They don't have that opportunity to not necessarily give back to their community or interact on a two-way basis. Some of their interactions may only be one way. So with this tool, they are hopefully able to integrate with the community, having that interaction that goes multiple ways. Establishing autonomy as well is super important. One of the kind of definitions that I'm looking at with autonomy is when individuals have a desire to control their own behavior, actions, and able to kind of have this ownership of learning. And that is very important when we talk about reducing barriers of learning, is that individuals have this sense of ownership. So it's not that they are in the back seat. They're actually in the driver's seat of their learning. They're having control. They have the power, so it's reducing the barriers. Some of the things that were important to me for the development of the app is that the app was very discreet. So it's being used on an iPhone, and I don't know the actual numbers because I just recently switched to an Android, so I feel like I'm betraying my iPhone brethren, but the majority of people have an iPhone or at least have a smartphone. So taking out a smartphone on a bus isn't going to be, hey, look at me, I'm different, I need support, I have a disability. Using a discrete iPhone is something that the majority of individuals use. So there's nothing on the device that says autism transportation app. There's nothing that labels it as those individuals have a disability. This app is very discrete, and it also allows them to have that full integration within the community. They have that ability to react to situations with that tool without having to be kind of on the outside. They're actively involved in it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about the app is that it can be used by anyone. This app isn't limited to someone with a disability, or it's not even limited to someone with autism. Other individuals could definitely benefit. I know just me specifically, I get anxious taking transit, so that's something that I always have transportations app available to me, but having this tool that uses augmented reality as well as giving them indicators of when to get off the bus, different devices that they wouldn't typically have, will really allow them to hopefully feel a part of the community and break down and remove the barriers that could have been in place before. So I'm going to end it there because I know we're just over time, and I don't want to keep you all for a lot longer than you would like to be here. But that is it for me. I know we did have some questions to consider, Larry, and I don't know if you wanted to discuss these quickly.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thanks to both of you for the great presentations. We perhaps should have mentioned that Jessica, you're working with Roland Van Oostveen, and Heather's thesis supervisor was Daphne Haywood. And we have this little group connected to UOIT that actually we would invite others who notice the direction that we're going. And if you are interested in research in this area and want to meet with us, we meet weekly actually and discuss. And these are our questions that guide us. We're looking for how technology can be used to allow least restrictive environments, the challenges and barriers, and how technology could make schools and life environments more inclusive. I'm sorry that we didn't end with enough time for questions, but we really do appreciate everybody's consideration in coming today and would love to hear from you as part of this group.
Absolutely. So thank you. And you have a question? Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Jeff. You field the questions, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
So the question was whether or not is the theme of our research to look at kind of fading or putting the assistive technologies into the background, and whether or not that's going to be counterproductive because the disabilities become invisible, so we don't see them, they might not be talked about, that sort of thing. And I think it is, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective before, and that is really interesting because on one side, we're looking at reducing barriers, and one of the easiest ways to reduce barriers is to give everyone access to assistive technologies, so then people might feel a little bit more comfortable. Similarly, if everyone has someone to talk to, people who are depressed might not feel as isolated to go out and seek help if everyone is talking about their feelings and emotions and things like that. So I think it can definitely be beneficial to provide everyone access because everyone is going to benefit from it, but still maintaining the communication about these disabilities. So not letting the autism fade into the background where people don't care about it anymore because they don't see it. I think there's a differential between providing tools that are available to everyone while still maintaining awareness and presence for the disability. So that's definitely something that we'll have to straddle and think about. I don't think they're like mutually exclusive. I think we can have access for everyone and everything without losing awareness for some disabilities, but it's definitely something to consider for sure. Did you have solutions?
It's a good point, Jessica, that leveling the playing field by broadening access to the technology can make a big difference. And in fact, some school boards have been purchasing school-wide licenses for text-to-speech software. Premier offers that, and Kurzweil is starting to look in that direction. And that means that any youngster who's trying to figure out how to type a word that they want to say when they're in grade 2 can also be benefiting from it, and it becomes much more common. But we don't want to lose sight, as the questioner said, of the specific needs of a particular struggling student. Very, very important.
Yeah. And Elizabeth had just put in the chat, just to make everyone aware, that there's a Symposium little feedback survey. So if you fill that out, that would be awesome, because we love feedback. And cognitive dissonance, that's a big one. We love that. So thank you guys all for listening. It was lovely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.